Hey, Dave, it's a pleasure talking to you. How are you doing?
Better than I deserve. How can I help?
Good deal. I own a moving company just outside of Jacksonville, Florida, and do about $1.9 million last year with 17 employees, roughly. And my question for you today is we are having a rather profitable year this year compared to last year, about a roughly 12 to 15% difference net profit. And increase, of course. And that being said, I'm trying to figure out some different avenues that should consider to decrease my tax liability, or should I just bite the bullet and pay the tax bill?
It's a problem with making more money. You got a tax problem now, so because you got an income, because your income's awesome. Okay, rule number one is don't buy stupid stuff you don't need just to save on taxes, because if you get a $10,000 write-off or $100,000 write-off on something that you didn't need, your only tax benefit, it only saves you about $30,000 in taxes. And so, a tax write-off is $1 trade for 30 cents. So you don't buy stuff that you don't need, okay, just to write it off. And you don't do things with money that you shouldn't be doing just to get a write-off. So if tax is your only motivator, you'll usually make a dumb decision. I've tried that myself a time or two. So the second thing then is get with your tax professional and have them walk you through what you're able to do with depreciation under the big beautiful bill this year. In 25, not in 24, but in 25, you're going to be able to write off a bunch of stuff in a single year that you used to have to depreciate. And so if you need some equipment, and you've got the cash for the equipment and the equipment is going to ROI, well, you'll be able to get a huge write-off for it in this calendar year. And again, you won't see the benefit of it tax-wise until you file after the first of the year. But that's the thing. So anyway, get with your tax accountant and figure that out. Is there any actual, you're in the moving business, so trucks come to mind, or forklifts come to mind, or whatever, I don't know, whatever other pieces of equipment you use. Is there anything that since you're sitting on some cash from some extra profits, it's been a banner year, do we need to move on up in equipment to increase our profits even more next year?
Well, that's the dilemma that I'm in, is because this year the goal was to stack cash. Last year we found ourselves in a little bit of a cash pinch to where we had pretty much a 2-week runway. Mm-hmm. And so this year we're much better off and in a much better position cash wise. But
how much cash are you sitting on?
About 150 right now.
Okay.
The goal is about 350 which would be 3 months of expenses.
Okay, cool. All right. Well, then we're just building the emergency fund and your retained earnings, and you're just going to pay taxes on it.
Okay.
There's not a mystical thing that this idea that rich people don't pay taxes is a freaking joke. Rich people pay a lot of taxes.
Right.
And,
well, my CPA had even mentioned too, doing the Roth IRA and doing a 401k and setting up that, but I didn't feel like cutting off my own hands to the cash. Especially considering in our personal lives, my wife and I are still on baby step 2, so we're not quite ready for that step in the process.
You're in baby step 2 and you stacked $150K in the business that you own 100% of?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
What's it take to pay off your personal debt?
About 45.
Oh, I'd do that today.
Okay.
I wouldn't have retained earnings that large while I had 45K at home sitting there. I'd clear that. That doesn't help your taxes at all, but that's a sidebar.
Right. Even with the seasonal business that we are, like we're about to head into winter season, which is just naturally and historically slower for the moving industry.
Yeah, but you break even during those months. You just don't make a lot of profit.
Sure. True. Okay.
You're not gonna need the cash to survive during those times.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, because you've got this thing rolling, and by the way, you may have it rolling hard enough that it rolls right through that season too. You may have, if you jam that pipeline up good and full, and you just keep working like you're like a maniac, like you have been, you may see that seasonality not be as extreme.
Okay.
We've experienced that in some of our areas where we used to have more severe dips than we do today. And the seasonality didn't really change. We just built up such a wave of business that it runs all the way through there, and we hardly realized that we went through a season change. And that's not always true, but momentum, in other words, and just cash flow can push you through those things, and availability. So no, you're probably not ready to buy. I did all that whole thing on equipment, and you're probably not ready to do that. I'd pay off 45. I'd sit on the rest of it, and I'd pay my taxes if I were in your shoes. And that's the problem with a sub S or an LLC or a sole proprietorship. Any money we try to keep in the business, we have to pay taxes on because it's profit. And so when Washington says we love small businesses, we want to help small businesses, they lie, because that's an unfair tax code, that I hold money in my retained earnings in my business. I didn't take it home. I didn't spend it. I didn't do anything. It's sitting here for survival purposes and for prospering purposes, but I have to pay tax on it for it to sit there. And so, anyway, that's what you're looking at. I would just pay my taxes in this, and I'd pay off the $45,000 today. I made your wife happy today. That's pretty cool. Yeah. She's gonna, woohoo! My husband just bonused himself $45K, and we're out of debt. Woohoo! We're debt free. Woohoo!